Hi, everybody.
Hello, I'm Ryan.
I'm Bethany.
And we are Ryan and Bethany Board Game Reviews.
And today we are talking about Return to Dark Tower. This is
newer, darker, taller.
This is probably all true. This is designed by Isaac Childers, Noah Coben, Rob Davio, Justin G. Jacobson, Brian Neff, and there are 11 artists involved in the project, so I looked that up on Board Game Geek, and then it is published by Restoration Games.
Yeah, what they do is they basically take a game that was an old classic that a lot of people loved and had a great time with back in the day, and they bring it to the modern era with modern new mechanics, touching up the art, doing all those things to it, making a whole new game. So this is not Dark Tower, this is Return to Dark Tower because of that. And oh my gosh, this place has a huge centerpiece of the tower, which I'll show you here in a minute. I would want to point out, usually at this point in the video, I would kind of a teach of the game, how the game works. This is pretty challenging to do a teach on because it's all done by the app and every scenario is completely different. So what I will do, I'll kind of show you everything, show you what actions possibilities are, some things that are generally helpful to do on a table, and then, each scenario is different, so you just have to face those on your own. All right, here's our initial setup for Return to Dark Tower. We've got our board laid out in front of us. It's a circular board divided into 4 sections. It's 4 different kingdoms. It's the north, south, east, and west. And so that way every player has kind of control of one kingdom. If there's 4 players, obviously. If you have less than that, you still set up all 4 kingdoms, and each player is in charge of one kingdom, and then any other kingdoms are still out there. Things can still happen to them. You just might have to go over there and take care of some things. All right, so obviously we have our tower here. This is the big center point of the entire game. We've got our app queued up as well. Let's see here. So it says start new game. It says turn on the tower. All right, so we're going to turn this on. It's going to make some noise. All right, and then it's going to basically kind of light up, activate. It's going to make some noise, it's going to light up. It's going to calibrate itself, basically. Making all these ominous noises, which is a great foreshadowing of about what we're about to experience. All right, when it's all ready, we press continue. Now we can choose whether we want to play the competitive or the cooperative mode. I'd say the cooperative is the main version of the game. Competitive is kind of like a variant for people who want to play this game competitively. We are going to choose the cooperative version. There's also an extra difficulty levels. If you have the expansion, the option's there as well. We're going to keep it on easy. Do continue. And then it's going to say how many players we're playing with. Let's say it's a 2-player game. Also, it's going to give us a chance to choose our main goal. There's a whole bunch of different ones you can choose from, and we are going to just kind of pick one randomly here. Let's say that one there. And then there's also going to be a main adversary. This is the highest level victim in the game, or not victim, villain in the game. Let's just pick one here, the Gaze Eternal. Now it's going to ask us to select some foes. So this is the level 2 foes, which is the weakest ones in the game. Let's say the Shadow Wolves. Now the level 2. Let's do the Lemures, and the level 4s. Let's do the Titan. If you want to do it randomly, there's also a button to do it randomly as well, so that way you don't have to choose anything. But yeah, you can choose all that stuff. So basically, every time you play the game, you're going to be choosing a goal, an adversary, and 3 different levels of villains. Once it has it all set up there, it's going to say continue, and it's going to go through a setup phase. So it's going to tell us to place 2 skulls on each bazaar and sanctuary. All right, the skulls are these little guys here. This is kind of the whole, one of the main points of the game. These skulls are going to be dropped out of this tower periodically. And what's going to happen is if we ever need to place one of these skulls and there's none left in our thing here, we lose the game. So we already start with a whole bunch of them out there on the board, which is not good. The next part of the setup is going to tell us to put a whole bunch of these dungeons out there. I'm not going to do that. Basically, we've got a whole bunch of different components that might be coming into play in any given game. We've got rivers of fire. We've got these siege trees. We've got dungeons. We've got ruins. We've got spores. We've got all kinds of stuff here. Basically, every scenario is going to tell you what you're going to need and where to put it on the board. At this point, you can also kind of go through all the tokens, choose which one you selected. For instance, our character we chose was the Gaze Eternal. So we'd have our Gaze Eternal token there. And basically, we're going to set that aside for now. But same thing with all our different levels of foes. We're going to basically get out the ones that we selected, have them ready to play. There are also cards for all the different foes as well, so that way you can kind of get a visualization of them. It shows what level they are and what different things they're good at. So for instance, the Spine Fiend here is good at both magic and beast. So if you have those advantages, those are going to be the most helpful to you when attacking them. Same thing over here. We've got our Lemure that we were working with. They are magic and undead. So we're going to want those advantages to make the most out of our battles with them. So again, pull out the cards just like with the tokens. So we've got a visual representation of what we're facing. Now there's a whole lot of different kinds of cards in the game. We've got our treasure cards. We're going to basically have a little kind of a small river of 3 cards of those out at any given time. So you might have these 3 items out there that you can purchase in the deck like that. And it's going to be able to refresh itself periodically throughout the game. Those are different items that you're going to be able to use that you're going to actually probably really need in order to take on the challenges of the game. We also have some potions. Some effects will tell us to draw potions. Potions are always good things that we can use. This one says you can spend this potion to gain 6 warriors. So that could be helpful. So again, tons of different potions. They all have different effects. And the more you get to those, the more flexible you'll be. You can also buy gear. Gear are kind of always out there. There's 6 different gears, and they come out in piles of 3. So for instance, you'll have the dusky cloaks, you'll have the brass talismans, the long swords, all that stuff. It's going to give you various advantages. Long swords, for instance, gives you a melee advantage. So sometimes you might need those. Or the Blessed Scepter says, after you reinforce, remove a skull from a building of your choice. So that can be really helpful getting rid of some of those skulls. We're going to be going on quests as the game goes on. Some quests are going to give us quest items. They're going to be specific to a specific task. Or we might get some allies, some friends of ours that might help us along. So, for instance, this game, actually when we started it, it told us the first player gains Mirez as a companion. So we'd go through this, we'd find Mirez, and the first player is going to gain this. It gives you some advantages, 2 wild advantages in grasslands, plus if you ever end your turn in grasslands, you get to gain 6 warriors. So look for those opportunities as well. The more companions you have, the better. We also have corruption cards. Those are going to be dealt out to us as we face villains and things like that. So you do not want those. You want to try to avoid those if you can. We have 2 main resources in the game. We have on the left over here, we have our warriors. And on the right, we have our virtue tokens. Those are going to be what we need to spend in order to take on a lot of those challenges when we face our villains. Also, the virtue tokens over here are going to be very helpful in order to purchase a lot of the items and tokens and things that we saw earlier. There are 4 different characters. They all do slightly different things, but the main thing I want to point out is there are 3 parts to the turn. You have your start of turn. Every player is going to have some kind of event that happens at the start of the turn. Then you have your middle of your turn. That's the main body of your turn. That's where you're going to get a chance to move around. You have a heroic action and a reinforce action. A heroic action is either removing skulls from where you are, fighting a bad guy, or completing a quest. If you complete a heroic action, you also get to the virtue afterwards, which is really helpful. The reinforced actions is going to the various buildings around the board and basically getting some more resources. Maybe you'll grab a potion or gain more virtue by going to a citadel. I keep on saying virtue when I actually mean is spirit. Virtue is a whole other thing. Virtue is going to be happening at the top right of our boards. I'll get to that in a little bit. All those blue token symbols that I was talking about earlier, those are all spirit tokens. All right, so yeah, so our reinforced action basically is a chance for you to gain all this different stuff we talked about. You can gain some potions. You can gain a virtue, which are the things over here that we'll talk about. You can gain more spirit. You can remove your corruptions, which is really important. Gain a whole lot of warriors. Or you can even gain gear and treasure. And if you spend basically some of the spirit resources, you're going to be able to get more stuff or higher quality stuff. And then at the end of the turn, you drop a skull into the tower. Now the app's going to tell us various things, where to place all these different spawns, or to spawn all these different villains. I'm making a bunch of noise. We're just going to skip through all that. Just know that there's a whole lot of bad guys out there at any given time, and they're all bad. Alright, now it's time to actually take our turns. And then it gives some goals as well here. This one says, for instance, our main goal, destroy the evil relics. We have to go through all these different dungeons in order to complete this particular goal. It's going to tell us where to place them. Again, I'm kind of just skipping past all this. All right, this game is divided out into months. Now, the first month, basically every player is going to get 1 action, 1 turn, and then the month is going to end. So it's a very, very short month, just to kind of get you started. Usually not a lot happens at the beginning of this month. All right, that's kind of our main screen that we're going to see most of the time. You can even see, it says here, for these particular quests, over here it says there is no quest right now. It's Calm Before the Storm. These are different buttons that we're going to press when we fight our bad guys, when we go through a dungeon, or we need to remove stuff off the board. Those are our buttons there that we're going to be operating with. All right, so at the end of every turn, we're going to drop in one of those skulls into the tower. Now, it might drop out onto someone's board, on someone's quadrant of the board, or it might not. It might still kind of be lodged up inside there somehow. So at the end of someone else's turn, we'll put another one in. Still hasn't dropped out. There might be some events that happen. Basically, you get a chance to, I can't really show you some. Let's see. One of these seals is going to be glowing. All right, this one right here. I'm not sure how well you can see that with the lighting, but you can tell us to remove that seal. And guess what? Behind it, there was a skull. So we're going to put that on one of the buildings in the quadrant of where it fell out. At the end of the month, we're just going to go through a series of more setups, basically going to tell us where we're going to put our new quests and what they're for, what the rewards we're going to get if we complete them. So these quest markers are going to go out over the board. Maybe one goes there. Maybe one goes there. We need to go to those places on the board during the course of this month, fulfill those quests in order to A, either gain some good stuff, or B, prevent some bad stuff from happening. Every month you're going to have new challenges that are going to come out you're going to have to face, but all along you have the main challenge that you have to undergo as well. What's going to happen is you're going to have to kind of manage the board, make sure the skulls don't get overwhelming on you. You're going to have to take out some of the villains as well because they can add skulls or do damage or move around. All the app will tell you when to do all of that. Also, you're going to have a situation where you have a timer. There's only 6 months in this game, and the first month is very, very, very short. So you need to complete all the things you need to do to defeat the main adversary before the end of the 6th month. So what's going to happen is, in most scenarios, what's going to happen, you need to fulfill the main goal. What that's going to happen is, the main adversary is basically inside the tower somewhere. We're completing that main goal in order to draw them out of the tower, and then we still need to defeat them. And they are usually very, very challenging compared to the normal foes that we've been fighting earlier on in the game. So that's kind of the progression of the game. You need to build up your resources. You need to avoid the skulls overtaking you. You need to take out some of the smaller villains, all the while trying to go towards your main objective, that main goal, in order to release the main adversary from the tower so that you can defeat them. If you're able to do all of that without having too many skulls on the board, without having anyone get too many corruptions, and defeat them before the end of the 6 months, you're going to win the game. I do wanted to give a little bit of a deeper dive on the player boards themselves. All right, so we have our 2 built-in virtues over here for each character. We have all different special abilities they can do. This particular one, the Brutal Warlord, at the start of each turn gains 5 warriors, which is great. All right, and then he has 3 movement. You can spend one of the spirit tokens in order to double that movement. We have our heroic actions and our reinforcement actions. Those are all the same for all players. And you can do this in any order, basically. You can kind of move, you can do a heroic action, you can move some more, and then reinforce, or whatever you want in any order. The whole middle of the turn is very flexible. And then at the end of the turn, like always, you're going to drop a skull in the tower. In addition to our 2 starting virtues, we also have 3 other ones that we can earn. You can pay 5 of those spirit tokens in order to flip one over, making your character that much stronger, giving them that much more resources, that kind of thing. Now, we also have an additional virtue that is based off of not your character, but where your starting region is. So, for instance, if we started in the south, we would be the champion of the south, and we would have this benefit here on our board. You can have as many potions and gears as you want, but you can only have 4 treasures. There's 4 slots there at the bottom of your card.
The table presence of this game is quite amazing. You have that tower just up in the middle, and it serves a purpose. The tower serves a purpose, which is great. It's not just like there to be pretty. It serves a purpose. But it just has this great table presence, takes up all the space in your player mats, and having that huge tower in there, it would be impossible to like walk by this at a convention and not be like, what's going on there? Like that, the game is just going to make you look at it.
I think the integration between the app and the tower itself is unbelievable. I had this picture in my head of what it would be like, and it'd be like you press a button and then later on something would happen, right? No, it was instantaneous. Everything was just connected so well. As soon as you drop a skull in, boom, the app reacts to it. It's all so speedy and so interactive between the 2 devices. It was unbelievable. It was unlike any other game I've ever seen. Or frankly, pairing 2 devices that seamlessly didn't anywhere else in my life with technology. It was unbelievable to me. And also, one of the things that people might have a fear about when they play this game is how much does the app take over? Is this a board game or is this a video game, you know? In this case, I think all the actions that you do, for the most part, are on the table itself. The app takes care of all the bookkeeping. There is the villain decks of cards you select. That's on the app, obviously. And then there is...
dungeons are on the app.
The dungeons themselves, when you kind of explore the dungeons, that way you can kind of be varied each time you go through a dungeon. And on the map, all is dictated by as a little token.
The app just helps the probability of it, so you don't have to worry about it.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'd say that, yes, this has a little bit more app than than board game than most people would probably say is the ratio they would want, perhaps, but it's done very, very well. And even when it does use the cards in the app, it's using cards in the app, not just using here's what's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are the two things come together really nicely.
And because of that, I felt like the rules were really smooth. Like, I understood what I could do, when I could do it. After we learned it, I don't felt like we were referencing the rule book a lot, because it kind of just like walked you through it when you were playing it, especially if we played the intro scenario first, and so it kind of like held our hand as we were going through everything, and I just felt like we knew what we were doing and why we were doing it and where we were going. So, and that helped with the app, but it was just really nice to play a game that you think is going to be like super challenging and to not have to refer to the rule book the entire time you're playing it. So that was really nice.
And make no mistake, this is challenging. You know, we lost our intro scenario that we played. We won the next one. We've lost some. You know, it's a very tough win ratio, which we usually really, really like. So for me, this was the perfect amount of toughness, but also the fact that there are so many different scenarios, and there's so much variability between choosing the different villains, choosing the head villain, choosing the scenario. It's all adds to a ton, like a megaton of replayability.
All right, so Ryan just said that we usually love really tough games, and I do love very challenging cooperative games. The issue that I had with this game, and this is when all of the board game community is just going to come out and hate me.
I don't hate you.
Thanks, babe. I love the challenge, and I love when I know what to expect. And this game does have the different species, and so they have strengths, so you can buy cards to kind of combat that strength. So that is there. However, I felt like sometimes it was still just like I didn't know really how to prepare to fight these things. Now, it's different if I know how to prepare and I can't do it and I lose. That's on me. It's different and if I thought I knew how to prepare and then I fight something and it's like I did what I thought the game wanted me to do and it still had me lose, right? And I just didn't like that. I didn't feel like I was able to control how I lost. Whereas the other cooperative games that we play and we lose all the time, like I totally understood why this was happening. Obviously, if this and this don't happen, we're going to lose. Whereas this one, it was like, okay, well, you're going to go in a dungeon. Oh, you chose the wrong way. You didn't have enough things. You're dead. You lost. And I'm just like, I don't know. That's definitely a Bethany thing. I love losing in cooperative games, but I like knowing exactly why I'm going to lose.
And I think that struggle is because it doesn't tell you exactly what you're going to be facing. You maybe have to add skulls to the board. Maybe you need to get rid of some of the warriors. Maybe you need to get rid of some virtue. Maybe some other thing needs to happen. Maybe you have to lose potions or items that you've carried and gathered. Yes. So every time you face a card, you don't know what it's going to be. But because of that, I honestly liked it a lot. I think that I kind of had an idea of what they could be.
Yeah.
And like you said, adding the advantages that helped you with that particular villain, you knew what you were getting into. And you had to just basically build up a whole bunch of stuff knowing that you were going to lose a whole bunch of it or take those corruptions, which I was ready to take that risk. And maybe that's why I lost so much. Because I was just like going in there I saved up a whole bunch of stuff knowing that I was going to lose a bunch of it. And I did. But I was able to defeat the villains. So, and each character has a better job of doing certain things on the board as well. So, man, super, super, super tough. But honestly, this is such a high toy factor that it was just a lot of fun. The app integration was unbelievable. It's an amazing piece of technology. The lights, the sounds, the artwork, it was just a really great production for me.
Yeah, my brother also thoroughly enjoyed this game and disagreed with like everything I just said in the point before because of the same reasons that Ryan said. It's just for me, I can recognize that this game is actually a really great game. It just lacked the fun factor for me. And this is when everybody's going to come out and be like, boo, hiss, Bethany
hates fun.
I just said it didn't have the fun factor. I love fun. But that is, that's just like, take it or leave it. I'm not going to talk about it anymore. That's what it is. Well, if you want to hear more of that, make sure to subscribe to us so you can see our videos as they come out. Until then, you can find us on Facebook, we're Ryan and Bethany Board Game Reviews. On Instagram, we're Ryan and Bethany. On Twitter, we're Ryan and Bethany 1. And on TikTok, we are Ryan and Bethany.
You guys, thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.
Bye.